Okay.
We're currently live right now on YouTube. I didn't know if you wanted to give it a couple minutes just to see if Director Kick joins the meeting, but that's up to you how you want to do this.
We'll give her 1 minute. She's usually pretty good about being on here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I really need to start if possible.
Okay. And yeah, we'll just go ahead and start. And if she comes in, then she comes in. Are you ready, Jennifer?
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. So welcome to the Finance and Administration Committee meeting. On today's date is the 27th of April. So welcome back, everybody. And we will go ahead and get started with the roll call, please.
Director Nairn,
Here,
Chair Hernandez.
Here.
We have a quorum right now. We are missing Vice Chair Kick.
Okay, perfect. So we will go ahead and move on to public comment. At this time, the members of the public are able to come and speak at 3 minutes for items that are not agendized. Do we have any public comments?
There are no attendees at this meeting, and I didn't receive any public comments via email.
Okay, thank you. So we will go ahead and go on to the approval of the minutes for March 23rd, 2021.
I will move approval of the minutes from the March meeting.
And I will go ahead and second. May we please have a roll?
Yes. Director Nairn,
Yes,
Chair Hernandez,
Yes.
and we also now have Vice Chair Kick. I don't know if she can hear me yet.
Yes, I can. Sorry about that. I'm here.
Okay, we are on agenda item 4 for the minute approval. Did you want to go ahead and say whether or not you approve?
Yes, I approve.
Thank you.
May we please have a roll?
I just did the roll call.
Okay. And then we will go ahead and move to item number 5, Treasurer's Report for March 2021.
Okay, I'll do this quickly. This is the March 2021 Treasurer's Report. Our cash flow is doing great because MTC's been very proactive in giving us our operating cash up front. That will be slowing down because they've given us almost all of it for the year. I will point out that our Farebox account activity, our money coming in through the Farebox fairs, is less than a quarter of what it was pre-COVID. So just a heads up. We're still under budget. That's the revised budget, not the original budget, but the lower budget in terms of expenses. And we are at 86.6% in terms of revenue.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the members have any questions with regards to the Treasurer's Report? Perfect. And I will ask for a approval of the Treasurer's Report for March 2021.
I'll move approval of the Treasurer's Report for March of 2021.
I'll second.
May we please have a roll?
Vice Chair Kick,
Aye.
Director Nairn,
Aye.
Chair Hernandez,
Aye.
passes unanimously.
So item number 6, which is the 2021 audit and LAPTA's financial statement.
Thank you. So it's that time of year again. Our audit is kicking off. It actually started on Monday. David Albee from our auditing firm, Mays and Associates, is here to go over some required items. He will be going over required items not only for LAFTA, but for the Rail Authority as well. He was very happy to hear that some of our committee members, and in fact, I told him all of our committee members are also on the rail board so that we didn't have to create a quick ad hoc committee to do a second one for rail. So David, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Well, thank you. And again, my name is David Albee. I'm a CPA, the independent auditor for both the Rail Authority and LAFTA. And my agenda today is to talk to you about certain statements of auditing standards that we as auditors have to follow, and we need to bring up with you an open lines of communication about certain things. So the two statement of auditing standards, or SASs, are SAS 114, which has to do with audit scope and timing. And then the second one is SAS 99, which has to do with the fraud consideration. So starting with 114, the scope and timing, like Tamara said, we kicked off our audit yesterday for our interim phase. So we are looking at both agencies for their internal control environment testing. That's really what we do during this interim phase. We're looking at segregation of duties. We're looking at the checks and balances that are built into the bones of the overall internal control environment to make sure that one person really can't go through and start, approve, and execute a transaction without some kind of level of approval or authorization. So in doing that, we do a brainstorming session where I had it with the entire audit team on Monday, where we look at the financial statements and we try to identify areas that we think are risky. And then we have to tailor our audit plan to mitigate those risks. So no audit plan is exactly the same on paper because each client is different. So part of our internal control testing, things that are subject, we're looking at disbursements, we're looking at payroll, we're looking at capital asset activity. Once we come back at final is when we start looking at the balances, and that'll be in late August, I believe. We'll be looking at the balances of your pension, your other post-employment, and capital assets and those type of things. We'll also do our bank reconciliation testing, making sure that the confirmations that we get back from the banks match what you have as your treasurer's report for June 30, 2021. We also perform certain compliance testing. So not only compliance with your local investment policy or purchasing policy, but also the government code, make sure that you're following those outlines. And then LAFTA typically has a single audit, which is a federal grants audit. So we have different compliance testing that we have to do for those monies, as well as the Measure B, BB, TDA, all those compliance audits we do at the same time. We assist in preparing the financial statements for both entities, whereas we take the raw information and we put it into the financial systems that you see, but we're not making management decisions. We're not changing or proposing any journal entries without approval from Tamara. And so from that, we think we still have the independence there, and we feel that you on staff have skills, knowledge, and experience to review those financials and to know what you're looking at. And at the very end, right before we issue our opinion, we do a management representation letter that's signed by management saying that they've given us everything in full faith and they're not withholding any information from us. And that date of that letter becomes our audit opinion. So that's just a really high level from start to finish the audit process. Now the interesting part about the fraud consideration. So this came out with the WorldCom and Enron collapse, that they said, auditor, you need to tell those in charge of governance what you do and don't do in terms of fraud. So from a financial statement audit perspective, that's what we're doing here, is we classify fraud in two ways. So fraudulent financial reporting, so that would be like cooking the books to make yourself look better. And then the second is misappropriation of assets. That's money walking out the door. And about 5 or 6 years ago, the American Institute of CPAs changed the way our verbiage of our audit opinion is, where it very clearly specifies that it's management's duty to create an environment to reduce the risk of financial statement misstatement due to fraud or error. As an auditor, we come in and we look to make sure that those are there and they're working, but it's really management's goal to look at the day-to-day operations of the organization. So with that, we have to discuss that to you, the Finance Committee. And so the questions that I have on the handout in the agenda packet are on 2B, and it's always difficult to do this at a public meeting. So I gave my contact information at the bottom of the memo. So the questions are you aware of any known fraud from July 1, 2020 to today's date? Are there any areas that you're concerned about that are more susceptible to fraud? The third question there is, do you know of any related party transactions? So that would be like you use a specific vendor because it's, you know, the sister of a board member. And then the last one is, do you feel that all employees are honest and have integrity? So if your answer is anything other than 3 no's and a yes, please reach out to me on those 4 questions, and my contact information is down there. Some areas that we automatically deem high in the risk of susceptibility to fraud is improper revenue recognition. So that would be that financial statement, cooking the books, and then also management's override of internal controls. And this one was actually the more interesting one during the shelter in place, because with management typically has the ability to circumvent things to get things done. And during the shelter in place, when everyone's working remotely, we saw sometimes where people were changing their duties and kind of shuffling just to try to get things, you know, try to get that payroll done, try to get those check runs done. And so we still need to make sure that no matter what the environment is, there still has to be that segregation of duties and not one person starting, executing, and approving a transaction. So that was actually very challenging during the shelter in place, just seeing how people have still maintained that strong internal control environment with the shelter in place. So with that, I'd like to open up to any questions you might have, and let me know if you have any concerns.
Any questions, directors? Not seeing any questions. They do have your number. Thank you for the information. And if they have any concerns, they will call you.
Thank you for your time.
You're
Can
welcome.
I ask to make a comment though?
Sure.
Sorry. So I always, you know, I sit on the Pleasanton Finance Committee and things, and I always find it interesting because I feel like if I had, I mean, I think it's good to pose these questions, but I always feel like if I had a concern about fraud or misappropriation, I would have done something about it and not waited for an auditor or an independent party to come in and ask the question, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and this, so these statements of auditing standards are for all auditors. You know, auditors of, you know, Cisco or a big company where it's very broad, or a small organization, or, you know, a city where there already is open lines of communication. But the real nature of this standard is to let you know that you can come talk to me if there's any issues.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is something similar, like also in our council, we get a letter every year asking if there's any questions or concerns about our city or anything that we feel that, you know, is not necessarily in line with what, you know, the realistic issues are. So, and concerns. So yeah, I know as a council member and for years now in the city of Dublin, we've always done that. And we actually get a piece of paper. And so, it sits in our desk and says, if there's any concerns, then, you know, you make sure that you're aware of that. So,
and we've had instances where it's not even a real fraud concern. It's maybe just, you know, hey, we have this, you know, pool, a city pool, and we don't know what really goes on there. Maybe we should do a cash collection site over there. So it just helps us as auditors do our planning and our risk assessment.
yeah. And it's part of your job also to make sure that you explain it to the different types of agencies as well. So, well, thank you, David. We appreciate it. So item number 7, and that was just informational. So item number 7, approval of resolution authorizing staff to apply for the TDA, SDA, and RM2 funds for fiscal year 2021, 2022.
Thank you. So we're requesting that you approve and forward to the board for approval the resolutions for TDA 4.0, STA, and RM2, as well as the TDA 4.5 funding. These funding sources make up about 75% of our operating revenues each year. They also make up a large chunk of our capital revenues. So it's a formality. We can't apply for them without board approval, but we hope the board approves because otherwise we can't do much.
Any questions? Great. And these are pretty standard. We do these every year. So thank you, Tamara. If we can go ahead and get a motion, please.
I'll move staff's recommendation.
I'll second.
May we have a roll, please?
Vice Chair Kick,
Yes.
Director Narum,
Yes,
Chair Hernandez,
Yes.
passes unanimously.
Okay. So item number 8 is resolution in support of allocation request for regional measure 2 funding for the rapid bus stop improvement project.
Okay, this one's mine as well as the next couple. So these are going to be kind of, you're going to keep getting the Nerf gun of funding resolutions coming at you. So it's just that time of year as we're lining up all of our funding for next year. So bear with us. Like the previous item, this is a resolution required to request certain funds. In this case, this is kind of a one-off funding allocation where these are regional measure 2 capital funds that the Metropolitan Transportation Commission came to us and said, hey, we have a little bit of balance left on this project that was authorized by the Bay Area's voters back in 2004 for certain improvements in the I-580 corridor. They wanted transit capital projects. And so we said, great, we have got some rapid bus stop improvements that we want to complete since we realigned the rapid routes in 2016. So, you know, that created and expanded where the rapid routes went, but not all of the bus stops, as you probably are aware, on the 10R and 30R are entirely up to rapid standards. So we proposed improvements that would do that at a total of 47 locations in all of our jurisdictions that don't have those yet. And MTC agreed to fund the project. So this initial allocation will provide for the design phase of the project to improve these bus stops for $230,000. Once the design phase is complete, MTC will entertain another allocation request for $2.07 million for the construction phase. So that is the current action. There's a bit more technicalities involved in this one because the legislation identifies the Alameda County Transportation Commission as the project sponsor. So there's a bunch of resolutions going to a bunch of commissions at once to make all this happen concurrently, but we're not expecting any issues. And so we are just doing our part for the LAFTA board to approve the resolution, as well as to take on the responsibility of being the lead agency for the project from ACTC so that we do the reporting and stuff like that. So again, this is to request that the Finance and Administration Committee refer Resolution 14-2021 to the Board of Directors for approval in support of an allocation request to MTC for $230,000 for the design phase of the Rapid Bus Stop Improvement Project. With that, I'd be happy to answer questions about the project or the funding or anything else.
Any questions with regards to the funding? Perfect. Okay, so it just looks like you need approval. So if
I'll move staff's recommendation. Yay, bus stop improvements.
I'll second it.
may we please have a roll?
Vice Chair Kick,
Aye.
Director Narum,
Aye,
Chair Hernandez,
Aye.
passes unanimously.
So item number 9 is resolution in support of application for funding through the MTC Safe and Seamless Mobility Quick Strike and Program for the LAFTA Passengers Facility Enhancement Project.
So this is mine again, and this is very similar to the last item, except it's a slightly different funding source and it's a slightly different project. But as we were having these previous conversations with MTC about how to utilize these funds to improve bus stops on our corridors, we were having also conversations with Alameda CTC about improving our bus stops at specific high ridership nodes. And specifically, these were the East Edmond, Pleasanton, BART station, where we're hoping to make some improvements to support the SAV project, as well as Las Positas College and the Lawrence and Sandia National Labs, where the 30R terminates at the end of East Avenue. So we took this project to Alameda CTC when they opened up their call for projects for Measure B funding and applied. And at the same time, so there's so much funding coming into transit right now. It's kind of hard to keep track of everything, but there's kind of a lot falling down from the sky at the moment. So concurrently, MTC announced a program called the Safe and Seamless Mobility Quick Strike Program, which sounds like it should be self-explanatory, but basically MTC has some federal money sitting around that they need to obligate quickly. It's been sitting around for a while. They need to get it out the door. And so they put out a call for projects, asking for basically projects that are ready to obligate and ready to go. And again, asked the county transportation agencies to send them project lists. So ACTC went immediately to their list of submissions for their Measure B call for projects, including ours, and just lifted up a bunch of projects out of that, handed them to MTC and said, how do these look? So anyway, MTC liked the look of our project. So you can see in the attachment to this one that we were recommended for funding. We actually got a nice healthy share of the total funding availability, both in the county and region wide, which is nice. So this is going to be $2 million for improvements that are really focused on those 3 high ridership locations, really to make a high quality premium experience at our highest ridership stops. So in order to proceed with the funding being recommended by MTC, we have got to provide a resolution of local support, which is the item before you today. And then MTC will take up the funding recommendations in June moving forward. So in order to access the funds, we're going to have to do some behind the scenes magic with the feds. But it's our understanding that we'll be able to meet all the funding requirements without issue. So with that, in this case, whereas the previous item was 100% funded by outside funds, this one will include a 30% local match by LAVTA to be included. And again, it includes both design and construction phases. So with that, just staff's recommendation is to refer resolution 13-2021 to the board for approval, authorizing the application for funding assigned to MTC for the passenger facilities enhancement project. And with that, I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I have a question. So the 30% match, we're still saving money on the projects because we would have paid for them fully. Am I understanding that correctly? They were already on our list of things to do.
Yes. So this is in line with, kind of our requests for the countywide transportation plan to improve our bus stops. The local match request was included in our original application to ACTC anyway. So it's the kind of thing that if you get the funds award, then you budget the funding you've committed in the application. But this resolution basically says, yes, we are committing these local funds to this project. It's a question, it's a policy question whether the project would have happened without these funds or not. It would have taken a much more significant commitment of local funding to carry it out.
Right. Okay. Unless there are any other questions, I would move staff's recommendation.
I'll second it.
Please have a roll.
Vice Chair Kick,
Yes.
Director Narum,
Yes,
Chair Hernandez,
Yes.
passes unanimously.
Item number 10 is the FTA Section 5311 funding authorizing resolution. Jennifer.
All right, I think this is the last one, so thank you for bearing with me. So this is for operating funding for the parts of our service that operate outside of the 2 urbanized areas in our service area. So if you're not aware, our service area has federally recognized urbanized areas of parts of Concord, which is the Dublin Pleasanton part, and then the Livermore urbanized area. But we also serve parts that are between them. There's sort of a gap tooth effect where there's lines traversing the areas between those. So FTA makes available operating funding to support those services. We have not applied in the past couple of rounds for this because there hasn't been a lot of money available compared to the administrative effort to obtain the funds. However, this year, with all of the supplemental appropriations being done with the CARES Act, with the coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act of 2020 that happened last December, which we call CRISA. There's actually a lot more available, and then it's more worthwhile for us to obtain it. So in this case, there's both regular fiscal year 2021 apportionments that Congress appropriates every year as part of the federal program. And then there's also a healthy extra chunk from CRISA. So the total amount of operating funding available from the feds is $154,097. We only have to put up a local match for the regular FY21 funds. We don't have to put up any local match for the CRISA funds. So this will commit a total of just $37,000 in local funding, but it does require a resolution of local support to apply. And so that is what we are requesting you approve today. And that is a recommendation that the committee refer resolution 12-2021 to the board for approval, authorizing LAVTA to receive federal funding under FTA section 5311.
Any questions or comments?
I have a question. Is FTA the Federal Transportation Administration?
Apologize for not explaining that. We drown in our own alphabet soup sometimes. It is the Federal Transit Administration. So that is a administration within the US DOT.
Okay. And so is this, I mean, this is out of the feds, right? Out of the Department of Transportation then?
Yes.
Wow. I mean, it seems like they're minting money.
So some of this, is previously authorized under what we call the FAST Act, which is the Federal Surface Transportation Authorization bill. So they usually do a multi-year authorization, and then it's up to Congress every year to actually appropriate the funds. But in this case, the FY 2021 funding is kind of the business as usual amount, and the CRISA is kind of the money from the sky.
Okay. Well, I'll move approval of the resolution to apply for the FTA money.
I'll
under
second.
section 5311.
Okay, and Jennifer, I appreciate you, looking out to making sure that we're looking for all the funding possible. And I know that we're still going to have difficult times as months go by. So I really think that any type of money that we can possibly get, that we go out and get it, because if we don't get it, somebody else will. But thank you. May we please have a roll?
Vice Chair Kick,
Yes.
Director Naren,
Yes.
Chair Hernandez,
Yes.
passes unanimously.
So item number 11, preview of any upcoming F&A committee agenda items.
Well, with all those resolutions, that leads us to budget season. We have a very rough draft budget done, but we will be bringing you hopefully a final draft to the committee meeting next month, so that it can be approved by the board in June. That's kind of our big one. We have an FTA triennial review coming up, but we don't know exactly when, because they keep kind of pushing it out and pushing it out. So it's going to hit us, and it's going to hit us quickly when they finally do give us those dates. But last I heard it was early spring, which I think was a few weeks ago. So we'll see when that's coming up, but it should probably be this summer. Our legal contracts up for extension, we don't actually usually bring that to the board because it's within Michael's spending authority. And it's just another year on a contract that's already been procured. July meetings are typically canceled because we don't usually have an August board meeting. And then September is pretty light as well. We bring the audit to you, usually the final audit information in October and November. The CAFR, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, that is no longer called that, but they haven't picked a new name yet. So, but we're not allowed to call it that anymore. So I'll let you know what it's called when the time comes.
The secret name.
Secret name is, they just said, don't call it that anymore, and we'll pick something else. So.
Got it. All right. Thank you, Tamara. Item number 12, matters initiated by any of the committee members. Any items that you would like to see in an upcoming meeting?
This isn't a matters necessarily, but I am happy to see the captioning is working on here. I brought that up at a previous board meeting, and I don't know if this is the first time I'm noticing it or if first time it's here, but I am glad to see it. So thanks to staff for making that happen.
A couple of the words have been kind of funny though. But
Yeah,
it's better than nothing, that's for sure.
we decided to try it out and see how it does today.
Great, great. Okay, and so that, it seems like we've gotten through the entire agenda, and I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Our next meeting is May 25th, on 2021. So we'll adjourn at 4:30.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.